Look at yourself for a second. Not the version you show to everyone else, the real you. Because what I'm about to say might not just challenge how you see yourself, it might rip it apart. So ask yourself, are you ready for that? Because once this truth enters your mind, it won't leave. It'll follow you. In the silence, in the tension in your chest when you lie down, in the pause before sleep. Because you'll know something's been off this whole time. Here's where it starts. Why do you keep thinking that the more you suffer, the more you're worth? Who fed you the idea that destroying yourself was noble? That burnout meant progress? Think back. Somewhere along the line, you started believing that unless you were exhausted, unless you were pushing past your limits every second, you weren't doing enough. You weren't enough. And that belief, it's not ambition, it's fear. It's the quiet, creeping panic that if you don't overextend yourself, everything will collapse, and people will finally see the cracks in your armor. You wear your exhaustion like a trophy. But deep down, you know it's a disguise, a way to hide the truth. That you're terrified that if you take a break, if you breathe, if you let go, someone will whisper what you've always feared. You're not special. You're just scared. This is what no one dares tell you. Your constant effort isn't a badge of courage. It's a symptom of insecurity, a signal that you've tied your identity to how much pain you can absorb without breaking. And yet, you keep pushing, not because it's effective, not because it's healthy, but because your nervous system has learned to confuse pressure with safety. You've built a life on tension, on proving, on earning worth. But let me ask you something disturbing. What if all this striving is just a ritual to avoid facing something deeper? What if all this work, all this effort, is just you running, not towards something, but away from stillness, away from the truth, away from the moment you might have to admit that you don't even know who you are without the grind? Let that sink in. Because the scariest part isn't how hard you work. It's that you don't know how to stop. You don't know how to exist unless you're proving your value. To others, to yourself. But here's what they won't say. The people who are truly free, the ones who radiate quiet power, they aren't driven by fear. They're not addicted to performance. They can rest without guilt. And that rest doesn't make them weak. It makes them clear. But you've mistaken chronic tension for strength. You think grinding yourself into the ground will earn you a life that finally feels like enough. But all it's doing is burying you deeper. Your so-called effort is a cage. You give and give and give, and then you resent that no one sees how much you're breaking behind the curtain. You expect the applause to fix the emptiness, but it doesn't. It never does. Let me show you how deep this goes. Have you ever helped someone sincerely and then felt bitter when they didn't thank you? You thought it was kindness, but it was transactional. You were trading effort for validation, and when it didn't come, it hurt. Why? Because your kindness wasn't free, it was desperate. This is what fear-born effort creates, not connection, not fulfillment, just dependency and burnout and bitterness. You think you need to be available 24/7. You think saying no is selfish. You think being tired all the time means you care more than everyone else. But what if I told you the opposite is true? What if real strength is in restraint? What if your value doesn't increase just because you're in pain? What if pushing harder, faster, longer isn't making you grow? It's eroding you. Your exhaustion isn't holy. It's not sacrifice. It's not noble. It's you, clinging to a system that keeps you small. And you know what's worse? It's not just your life that's affected. This obsession infects your relationships too. People feel it. That desperation, that hunger for approval. You think they don't notice, but they do. They sense the pressure behind your smile. They feel the tension behind your help. Every kind act has a weight to it, Because it's not free. It's tied to your fear of being invisible. Let me say it clearly. This is not strength. This is self-erasure. So I'm going to ask you to picture something painful. Imagine you've spent years building something, a life, a persona, an identity. But you realize, too late, that it was built not from clarity, but from panic, not from love, but from fear. Would you keep building it, or would you finally tear it down? Because that's the choice. Keep burning yourself to prove you matter, or start choosing from a different place. A place that doesn't need applause to feel real. A place where saying, "I'm done for today," doesn't feel like failure, but freedom. And yes, choosing that will come at a cost. People will notice you changing. The ones who relied on your constant sacrifice might pull away. But that's not loss, that's detox. Because real peace, it doesn't require you to bleed for it. It asks you to wake up. You are not valuable because you suffer. You are not strong because you never say no. You are not admirable because you're always tired. That is not greatness. That is psychological slavery. And this world doesn't need more burnt-out martyrs. It needs people brave enough to rest, to be still, to say enough. So next time you feel that familiar panic, that voice telling you to do more, give more, prove more, I want you to stop and ask one question. Who am I trying to impress? If you can sit with that question, if you can face the silence that follows, you'll find something more terrifying and beautiful than any applause could offer. Yourself, unafraid, unchained, free.